Thank you for tuning in to Passion for Purity. This is the podcast for Christian young men who are fighting to have sexual integrity while living in a hypersexualized culture. I'm your host, Wesley Reinhardt, and this is episode 03 entitled, Just How Bad Is It? We'll take a real look at just how many people are struggling with pornography and what to do about it. Let's dive in. Thanks for tuning in today. So, just how bad is it? That's the question. How many people are viewing or addicted to pornography? I think we would all agree that it's a problem, and with the boom of the internet in the last 15 years, the pornography statistics have gone up. But how bad is it? My goal for these next 10 minutes is to convince you that it's worse than you think. It is more pervasive than you think. And we really, as a church, need to be fighting this because it is crippling us. It's everywhere. Let's go back 17 years to start off. Crosswalk is a Christian organization putting out resources, devotional materials, church aids, and in 2005, they put out 64% of churchmen viewed porn within the last year. That was 17 years ago when they found that over half of church men had viewed porn within the last year. That's astounding. That's scary. Okay, let's jump up 9 years to 2014. Charisma. That's a magazine primarily read by Pentecostals and Charismatics, but one of the mainline evangelical denominations, and they said 54% of Christians admit to having viewed porn within the last month. Okay, that's over half, men and women in that statistic, but over half of Christians in the last month. Again, that was 8 years ago. Okay, let's jump up another year. And this is a secular statistic. CNS News, they're a politically conservative news network, but they cared to comment on porn use within the United States. 64% of U.S. men view porn at least monthly. Okay, that's the majority of men in America. All right, let's jump up another year, 2016. Let's go to the Roman Catholic Church, Church Militant. That's a Roman Catholic organization, and they just discuss current events within Roman Catholicism. They said 87% of men between the ages of 18 and 30 view porn at least monthly. That's nearly 90% of young men between the ages of 18 and 30. 67%, so nearly 70% of men between 31 and 49 view porn at least monthly. So there's only a 20% difference between men between 18 and 30 and 31 and 49. But both of them are in the majority, 67% and 87%. Those numbers are huge. That's within the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, let's jump to Christianity Today then. Here's what they said in 2016. And if this is 5, 6, 7 years old, things have only gotten worse since then, not better. Christianity Today said 57% of pastors and 64% of youth pastors admit they have struggled with porn. So in their survey, 57% and 64% were willing to say, at some time in my life, I've struggled with porn. So we don't know those who are still struggling with it, if they wanted to admit that. Okay, well then they had another question, just asking flat out, who all are willing to admit that they're struggling with pornography right now. 21% of youth pastors said they were, and 14% of pastors admitted that they currently struggled with porn. So that's 1 out of every 5 youth pastors and 1 out of every 10 pastors. That's a lot, and that was 6 years ago. Okay, let's look at Covenant Eyes. This is 6 years ago as well, and you may have heard of Covenant Eyes. They put out a computer software that offers accountability services and filtering. I use them personally. I know a lot of people do, and they're a good resource. But their statistics, 73% of pastors feel adequate and equipped to deal with pornography if someone comes to them for help. But here's the kicker. Only 7% of churches have any program whatsoever. So here we have a major problem that the majority, 2/3 or more, of the men in our church are struggling with, and we have less than 1 out of 10 churches have a program to deal with it. Now, again, that's 6 years old, and so I know that more churches are seeing the need, and that's good. But still, we have an enormous gap in the need. Okay, let's look at one more source. Ted Roberts, Dr. Ted Roberts. He is with Pure Desire Ministries. Their group just put out the Conquer series. It's a phenomenal resource for churches and battling this area of pornography. Okay, here's what he found. He's counseled over 1,300 pastors individually and given hundreds of talks at churches. This is what he does. He said 57% of pastors are struggling with pornography, 70% of churchmen, 52% of church women struggling with porn. You say those numbers are too high. I challenge you, I don't think they are. They're incredibly high. Pornography has totally invaded our churches. And I mean, who could have seen the boom of the internet and how much that it would cause this? And there's a generational gap. Those who grew up without the smartphone and those who are growing up with the smartphone, there's an increase in the numbers there. But this is a problem in the entire church. And I could talk about my time at Bible college. Myself, I talked to so many guys, and we all agreed. We thought we were the only ones, and it just wasn't talked about at church. It wasn't addressed. And not even so much pornography as the whole area of sexual integrity. It was very much a closed box of do this, don't do that. And we skirted around pornography and masturbation. These are big talks that we need to have. So what do we do then? And I'm going to take these 3 minutes to challenge you, and I want you to find a way. How can I address this? I know sexual integrity it's not everything within the Christian life, but it's huge because it affects the family unit so much. It affects the marriage relationship so much. So it really is something outside of our spiritual disciplines. Sexual integrity is something we need to be striving for, and the scriptures will tell you that. Things we can do. 1, address it on a corporate level at church. Obviously, it's not something you can preach about on Sunday morning because you've got to be careful about children are there. But talk about it corporately. Maybe it's doing a retreat once or twice a year. And really, again, if it's the majority, 60, 70% of men, this isn't something that we talk about even just once a year. It's got to be a regular thing, maybe in small groups. I don't know, but let's address it on a corporate level. Another area where it just needs to be talked about is the home. Dads and moms, make sure that you talk to your kids and have healthy conversations. Sex is not bad. Pornography is. And we need to paint reality for what it is. It can be a minefield. Our phones can be a minefield. And so let's be aware. Let's be on the lookout. Talk about it with your kids and warn them of those dangers. Okay, here's another one. I especially challenge young men. This is a hard one, but talk about it with your friends. Sure, it can be an awkward conversation at first, but I guarantee you, if you have a buddy or a close Christian friend and you just take one time and say, okay, I'm going to ask them about this, we're going to talk, it will get easier after that, and it will be the best thing that could happen to your friendship or your circle of friends. And you know what? Here's what I found is easy. Just saying, all right, man, how you doing with your phone? And that opens the door to a good conversation. And so figure out how you can routinely edify each other through talking about it. Those are 3 ways that we can go about addressing this. It's a huge problem, and it's crippling us, so we need to attack it. I want to close today's episode by reading Hebrews 3:13. But exhort one another every day, as long as it is called today, that none of you may be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. We need to put these things out on the table. We need to talk about them. Thanks for tuning in today to Passion for Purity. You can find it on anywhere that you get your podcasts. We'd appreciate the support. Until next time, keep fighting.